Everything's happy, Alice.
Everything's happy?
Nice, happy thoughts. What do you think of when you hear this song? Oh, I hear me.
Yeah, you're in the background of this.
Oh, I am? Oh, I had my mic up the whole time. What do you think of when you hear this?
Merry-go-rounds and I don't know what.
That is incorrect.
What am I supposed to think of?
It is a guy with suspenders and a funny shirt and a very pretty lady in a Jeep driving through Colorado. The guy, though... Oh, something's happening here. The guy... What's happening here? Check, check, check. Are you hearing something?
Nope,
weird?
I don't hear anything weird.
So the guy in the situation, though, there's something special about him. Guess what it is?
I don't know.
Give you a hint. He has to kind of learn everything we do here. Even though he's in his...
He's
20s.
an alien?
He's an alien. That's correct. Do you know his name?
Is this like that Robin Williams show?
Correct. This is
Okay.
Mork and Mindy.
Okay.
These are the happy sounds of Mork and Mindy.
It sounds lovely.
Oh,
Never seen it.
at a happier time. 1978, 1979. So innocent and nice and free and tranquil. And Mork is Pam Dauber was very cute and pretty. It was such a fun, great time.
Good. I'm
Hung out with
glad
my
it
buddy.
brings you joy.
Danny Smith, of course, who lived in Melrose, as you know, Danny. Who's now Danny Feeney down in California.
Good for him.
Had a very pretty mother, still does, named Susan Feeney. Blonde. I thought she was very pretty. And I've liked people of that template, that look, ever since. I wasn't had a sick thing. I was 5. So, but you know, you can find certain kinds of people pretty. But anyway, it was just a nice, tranquil, silly show and a nice, silly time with all sorts of interesting co-hosts and guest stars. David Letterman was in an episode before anybody knew who he was.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, it's one of the songs that I can think that brings me to a place that's absolutely without angry noise. Which brings us to our man Vito.
Yeah.
Under fire.
Under fire today. He's under attack.
Yes, that is worrisome. So what's going on? Tell us what's going on with Vito.
Well, various things. I mean, obviously there's just a bunch of ignorant people on Twitter who are blasting him for no reason. If you guys didn't get a chance to listen to our interview with him yesterday in that show, I definitely would. It's a fantastic he's such a good time. He's so funny and interesting, and his story of how he ended up at this protest is interesting, and his co-host taking a rubber bullet for Black Lives Matter and everything else. So that was great having him on, and but now leftists are discovering that he was the person who was holding hateful signs at the Dave Chappelle Netflix walkout. So they're obviously really mad at him. It was really hateful, and this is all egged on by the news media, and it's hard to imagine for somebody who trusts the media, I can't imagine how radicalizing this must be. If you really have gone around believing that the AP was reporting totally factually on the Ron DeSantis for Generon stuff, and that Christina Pushaw's just mean to them, and the fact that she said drag them is actually cutting into freedom of the press or something. If you just think they're all neutral actors who are doing their best, then this must be shocking for you. But we have video of the entire encounter. We played it on our show yesterday. The video's been viewed millions of times online. Millions of people have literally watched this video now and seen this, and the media continues to absolutely just lie about what transpired. In fact, the AP has as their image caption for the image of him standing there with a tambourine girl, they have an image, a photo of him through the tambourine of the tambourine girl when he's saying, "I just love Dave Chappelle."
Right.
And the image is labeled, captioned on AP. So going out to dozens of local newspapers, including your local newspaper, all across America. I mean, dozens, hundreds probably of papers are running this photo with this caption. It says, comedian and videographer Vito Gesualdi screams profanities as he engages with peaceful protesters begging him to leave outside the Netflix building in the Hollywood section of Los Angeles. That's the AP staff photo that all these newspapers across America are subscribed to, that they're going to run that caption. Now he's screaming profanity. I mean, you can look at the video. I don't think he says a single profanity in it. They, on the other hand, were absolutely screaming profanities at him. The
person with the tambourine is saying, repent, MFer.
They're literally screaming profanities. Yes. And as he engages with peaceful protesters, they assaulted his show co-host and took his sign and broke it in two and handed it to him.
I'm just here to
this is a moment.
That jokes are funny, people. Dave Chappelle, funny guy. I love Dave. I don't know why all the violence.
Yeah.
I don't know why the hate. I just love Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle.
That's... You hear that person's on
that person's...
That person needs a police officer to be there. That's him. That's the guy, the violent guy, according to the AP. And, of course, now that it's in the AP, it's around the world.
Oh, yeah. And you have, they're not the only ones. You know, Variety also ran a big story and had a big series of tweets that were completely untrue.
What did they say? They rushed up against protesters. It's something like rushed up against, and they clashed.
Or they confronted them or something.
They rushed up against, and they clashed.
So they, here's the one that they have him. It's after he's lost the sign, so he looks like they're running up to him, but he said, this is their tweet. They said, at times, the Netflix walkout situation threatened to devolve as counter-protesters pushed against trans speakers.
Yeah.
I mean... metaphorically pushed, but they were literally pushing him and his co-host, so it seems odd. A subset of counter-protesters, primarily composed of white women, began shouting anti-trans remarks, saying self-love, not surgery, which appeared to reference gender reassignment procedures. But that's not about Vito, obviously, but they're, lumping all these counter-protesters together.
The phrasing down there a little bit further is essentially says one protester thought he had a weapon. So it's their way of getting it in. That because it's irrelevant if somebody thought a stick was a weapon.
Right.
That shouldn't make the copy. It shouldn't make the article.
Yeah. So here's one person who apparently, seemingly from their tweet, is claiming to have been there, who tweeted out a photo. Here's a picture of LAPD having a conversation with one of the transphobic counter-demonstrators today outside Netflix. Cops and the Klan go hand in hand. When in fact, it's Vito's co-host Dave reporting to the police that he was shoved into the concrete and almost got a concussion.
Right.
So he's over there explaining to the police that he was attacked, and somebody's tweeting it and saying, see, the cops and these evil transphobic Klansmen are, buddy-buddy. That's why we can't trust any. Like, just totally made up insane narratives.
Yep. And now Vito, before, he's been suspended, right, from Twitter?
He was briefly. He's back, I believe.
He said also those peaceful protesters, quote, broke my bleep and tackled my buddy to the concrete. What a load of bleep. He said, oh great, it's Associated Press. So he's upset, maybe. It's incredible. And so he is
what? What are you reading?
Which
Share
YT video? Which YT video?
YouTube video.
Okay. Somebody says, just going to say, you keep saying your YouTube video was comedy. In said video, you say how you were almost killed. Can you explain how both statements can be, because from a rational point of view, those don't seem to go together? He said, me almost getting killed is funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. There are some people saying it's really hard if you're a public figure to win like defamation claims and stuff. It's much easier if you're like Nick Sandman. But, the fact that the AP
has a photo of him and has it labeled and going out to every newspaper in the country saying he's screaming profanities when he absolutely was not screaming profanities at anybody. Seems like that could be actionable even as a public figure because it's just so off base. It's
incredible. Yeah, I was just listening to the commentary podcast, and they had actually, I should have thought of that. They had the guy who wrote and directed Airplane from 1979 or whatever.
Right.
And he said that this will pass. Absolutely. He said this will pass. And he said it will pass. Essentially, this is what he said. He said this will pass as soon as we murder everybody with no sense of humor. Which was his way of also saying a joke you're not allowed to say, but making a point. Mm-hmm. So here's my feeling. Where does it come from, do you think, that people are... And I've seen guys I've used to work with, etc. I've seen this where they have these kids who turn out not attractive, who make themselves embrace their unattractiveness. Intelligent kids, generally, mm-hmm. who decide to go into these... Who decide to live... these kind of morose, just nasty lives. Mm-hmm. Like that thing yelling at Chappelle, I was yelling at Vito yesterday. I can't even identify what the hell that was. And I'm not trying to be a wise ass here. I don't know what that is. That person has so chosen to be physically and just personality-wise mm-hmm. so repulsive that I can't even, I can't imagine what the value system is in that person's world. I can tell you that it ain't happy, sunshine, summer dresses, love, adventure, life. It's not that. It's totally playing defense, thinking you're playing offense. It ain't good. I don't care. If I had a kid like that, I don't know what I'd do. But if it was somebody who was under 18, if over 18, I guess you're just screwed. But I would just say, like, dude, you don't want to be this. You don't want to live life as this. It mm-hmm. ain't great. The amount of joy and happiness you will get as that, even though I'm sure your mind will, adapt a little bit so that you have some kind of system of validation, etc. Mm-hmm. That sucks.
Right.
It does.
I think that a lot of that comes from sort of what we had been talking about before, about like a willingness to, to not always do the easiest thing, to like not sit around at home on the sofa eating chips and reading fan fiction on the internet about like Harry Potter books or whatever, right? Like to actually be doing stuff and making things and getting out there and like, I don't know. I saw someone's tweet. No, I'm not going to be able to find it again. Where they said, like, just a quick reminder, like, if you've done any job today, then, like, literally, whether it's, like, flipping burgers or pumping gas or, like, whatever, you've accomplished more and done more today than, like, all these, like, pundits sitting at home and punditing about stuff and the economy and whatever. Like, and I think that there is something really to that this stuff has value. Going out there and doing something and having to interact with people and like earn money and all this stuff. And like, when we talk about the economy hurting or whatever, and people not having jobs and people getting paid to stay home, we forget that the cost isn't just like some dollar amount in the GDP, but there's a human cost. We create people who just like leech off of society, aren't creating anything, aren't doing anything, and it robs them of dignity. It's hurting them, when you hand them that check to like sit on the sofa and not do anything. Of course. It's hurting them more than it's hurting the rest of us. It's not like it's some great benefit to society if they go out and work at McDonald's. Like, who cares, right? Even though, like, that's the stuff the world is made of, it obviously does benefit society. But the biggest person that it hurts is them. That's who it damages when we have a society of people that don't value, taking the time to do stuff, even if it's grunt labor. But like, do anything,
Well, wouldn't Tambourine
Tambourine
consider themselves having done something?
I mean, I guess they would, but I think that just comes from a place of such a lack of perspective of like what doing something is. Like to shake a tambourine in somebody's face and scream at them accomplishes nothing. Nothing. You haven't done anything. You didn't make anything. You didn't build anything. You didn't protect anyone. He didn't do anything to anyone.
Wouldn't they say that they somehow are too victimized and too burdened by issues and health issues, whatever, mental health issues certainly, which is an easy go-to? Wouldn't they say that they're not given the privilege of being able to do something?
Yeah, but I mean,
the problem is that there's an audience, there's a peer group, and that's the problem. That's why they all hang out together. They're all freaking miserable.
Yeah. So this is a thread I saw today. Somebody on Twitter tweeted out. This has 20,000 likes on it. They were at some sort of like job orientation, and in the job orientation presentation, there was this slide that he labeled, "Let's spot the ableism. Here's a slide from my first day of training at my new job. Here's the slide. Things that require zero talent. Being on time, work ethic, effort, body language, energy, attitude, passion, being coachable, doing more, and being prepared." Can you spot the ableism?
I don't get... Wait.
That slide is ableism.
I'm not sure. So is it of that list? It's supposed... Something in that list is supposed to be?
The whole list is ableist, in case you were wondering.
Why does it start out with here's something that doesn't require talent?
Because the list is saying, like, so it's the job is saying, here's a bunch of things you can do that don't require you having any special skills.
Oh, okay.
Be on time, have work ethic, body language, energy, attitude, passion, being coachable, doing more, and being prepared.
Okay.
So the job is saying, like, these are all things you can do without talent. Like,
right.
You know, special training or anything. Like, you can do all this stuff. And the person tweeting is saying that that's ableist to say that that requires zero talent because they're unable to do those things because they're neurodivergent.
Neurodivergent? What does that mean?
Neurodivergent means mentally not the same as a neurotypical person.
Oh, what an awesome cop-out. I would have used that. Absolutely.
Then he writes, day 2, I asked for accommodations and was told, we have a lot of people here with ADHD and they haven't asked for accommodations. What kinds of things do you have in mind? So many things. He says, I will gladly take a position as HR rep for neurodivergence.
So what is this person? That person sucks. Mm-hmm. I hope somebody delivers that message to that person, that they suck. I'm worried that somebody isn't delivering the message. The problem is...
He's mad at the slide. He feels that those are things that do require special skills and that to even expect people to be on time, have work ethic, and a positive attitude are that's ableist to even expect that from your employees because only neurotypical people are able to do those things. Neurodivergent people just can't have a good attitude and be on time.
I think there's part of this that is, I think that part of this is, and this is just a new translation of, that also the neurodivergent person also feels, in a way, looks down on those things. Yeah. I'm really special. I'm smart. I'm very intelligent. I'm one of a kind. I'm me. Mm-hmm. I'm better than having to show up on time to make pizza. I'm better than having to, have a positive outlook while I'm, working, doing oil change. I'm better than having to do that. I'm stooping here anyway. I don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. I think part of that is that. Yeah. Which is like what you see when you have a lot of people who are entitled. And I've had jobs where I obviously had this, and it was below me that when I was 22 that I had to be doing this or that. So I should have been handed a rock and roll contract based on the no work I did to get one because I was such a brilliant guy in my bedroom writing songs. I should have just been given all these things.
Mm-hmm. So then there's like this whole argument in the replies where a bunch of people are going like, here's one. I have ADHD. Asking your employees to show up on time and to do good work isn't ableist. There's nothing wrong with the slide. You know what I do to show up on time? I set multiple alarms so I always know what time it is. And he says, you realize how much effort that is for some people, right? You're agreeing that being on time doesn't come naturally to you. Yeah, you have a brain thing where you can't be on time. Look, a lot of people, all this stuff, I don't think the point of the slide was all that comes naturally to everybody all the time.
No, what they're
But
doing is
do lazy people think that the people that are like working hard and busting their butts and like, you know, doing their stupid customer service job that they hate with a huge smile on their face just because they love it and it just comes naturally to them, that they just are like that because they just without any effort at all? Like, no, you don't understand. It's hard for me. Like, no, it's hard for those people too.
Exactly.
And they freaking do it. Like, it's hard for, nobody likes to show up on time. Everybody would like to hit snooze and sleep in, right? Like, I would say it's more neurodivergent to like have it come totally naturally to be on time.
Right. Well, there's
everybody likes, you know, everybody likes slacking off. It's
right.
not, that's not divergent. That is neurotypical.
Yes, there's
We're
a
all
reason
having
why
to suffer through.
There's a reason why a company, a business has to compensate you because it's paying you to use you to do a whole bunch of crap you don't want to do.
Yeah, things that you don't just do naturally.
Right.
You make money for that reason. Because
Exactly.
if you just showed up naturally,
You might do it for free.
I know. I just naturally show up at the
really
hotel
wanna-
desk and really love helping
I really want to
people.
jump in the shower at 5:53 every day when it's cold as hell and get in the car, which may or may not start, to try to trudge my way to my job that's going to suck for 8 hours. That's what I really want to do.
You probably wouldn't understand this because you're neurotypical, but for me, I actually like don't enjoy doing dishes. So
I'm not into it. It's like our kids. They say that with a straight face. I hate cleaning. They hate cleaning.
I know. We're like, yeah, we know. We hate cleaning too. That's why we make you help us. Like, yeah, like, but that's one thing because they're like 6, right?
Right.
It's different with people who are supposedly fully grown adults who are applying for jobs who are like, you don't understand. It's like really difficult for me to be on time. My brain just like won't let me be on time.
Well, at 6, but at least they're honest and say they hate it. They're not saying they're neurodivergent and so it's harder for them. It is. The problem is...
I'm sure they would if they had that in their arsenal of things to tell us.
So unless they want to go through... And now you've got friends who are like this.
Yeah, I do.
Who are just completely miserable.
Oh, yeah, I have friends that have handicap placards.
Who used to be... Many of them used to be, like, really pretty girls. And now these are miserable people who are barely, recognizable, and all that stuff's out the window, and they've chosen a different path, etc. Like at some point, this life is permanent. At some point, there's no creating a life. Like I know friends of yours who now would be 34 or whatever. Is it 34? Is that right?
Yeah.
Who have gone to good colleges, but stand around, screaming at people and holding tambourines instead, who have done nothing now. Nothing really with the degrees. A gig here, gig there, gig here, gig there.
Right.
So the problem is that you can't. At some point, they may want to not be a disgrace and break into the world of producers, of people of winners. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine, I won't say it. It's enough. But so at some point to do that, you need to bring to the table the product, the wisdom, and the gained intelligence that you've gotten and knowledge from your work product and the journey it took to get there. Mm-hmm. But if not, then you've got nothing. You can't just be 40 and be around winners. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking it's any kind of winner. I'm not talking about like anything, doing what you want to do, doing it well, and being anything like that. I mean, if you spend a life, at some point you're only going to be able to speak loser and miserable.
Right. And so, okay. So 2 things about that. One is, have you ever heard of the book It was by an author called Barbara Ehrenreich. This was probably like 20 years ago. She wrote a book called Nickel and Dimed on not getting by in America. And she did like this undercover project where it was like, she's like this very degreed, educated person, right? And she wanted to see like if you could get by in America. So she went to 3 different cities, started out with like $1,000 in each city.
I do remember this.
And like to get like just a minimum wage regular job. Like in one of them she was at Walmart, and another one she might have been a cashier or something, I don't remember, but she got these like low wage jobs. And the thing, like I read it for a class at one point, and she's a big lefty, so her like thesis of the book was like, you can't get by, it can't be done, like it's just impossible to live in America like this. Well, like first of all, yes, it's extremely difficult to get by if you have no family and friends and you're starting from like total scratch with no savings or anything. But most people have like a network of family around them and stuff. They're not trying to like get an apartment just for one person, you know, on one person's minimum wage job.
Right.
You know, that's like not the most realistic scenario, but like I mean maybe it happens. Okay, so there's probably some people out there who end up in that situation through no fault of their own, and it's going to be difficult for them to get by. But one of the biggest things I remember from reading that book is that one of her takeaways was that her being like very degreed and educated and smart didn't like make her any better at any of the jobs than anyone else. She was like, I still sucked at all these jobs, and nobody was like, oh my God, what are you doing here? Like, you should be a manager. You know, like she wasn't recognized for not being a poor person idiot like she thought she ought to be. That people would be like, are you undercover? Like,
right.
But, you know, I do think it's interesting because I do think that if you can't stand out at like a low wage job, that there is something somehow wrong with you, because like doing well at jobs like that, like to work in Walmart and like become a department manager at Walmart, requires mostly things that were on that PowerPoint, like being able to show up on time, being organized, like knowing what's going on, knowing what your schedule is, you know, having like good time management and a positive attitude, and like
you have to have a basic level acumen for basic tasks and organizational skills, etc. And in some management skills you'd have to have a mind to at least do that. But I'm not talking about when you say something's wrong with you. I'm not talking about dumb people who just sometimes are just slack-jawed idiots who the friolator is where it is. Then that's fine.
But there's also slack-jawed idiots who have a lot of degrees, I guess is my point. Like,
but I'm talking about the people who grew up in your town, in Lexington, who come from, many of them, old money.
Yeah.
Who for the first time in the lineage, in that family of the Cabots and the, you know, the Shaws and whoever else they are, the first time the family tree has produced an unproductive person who's only living off the fumes of the productive people before.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I think that, but I mean, I think that woman, Barbara Ehrenreich, she's coming from like having a bunch of degrees and whatever. And like,
but she did a social experiment. But what I'm saying is like the people who devote their lives to this, those people who are yelling at Vito, most of those people, I guarantee you, have at least one degree, probably multiple degrees. Many of them, I know this for a fact, many of the people in the social justice movements are rich kids, upper middle class.
Yeah, but I think a lot of them also continue to be losers and work low wage jobs and be baristas and stuff in some sense as a social experiment also. Like that's like,
fine.
They're like slumming, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm one of the downtrodden poor, like.
And that's a rite of passage thing for a lot of kids too. I think it's very American.
I'm gonna organize the coffee bar.
Right. No, I understand that. And usually you can make the phone call to Daddy at some point and say, they're going to kick us out of our apartment and he'll cover you. Even the great Tom Shattuck was known to make a groveling ask of his father. But so what I'm saying is, like, what point, how do people then ever make the change? So I'm going to use this is my own thing, okay? Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I was so terrible, I'm still not normal, and I'm not socially great in most situations. Sometimes I'm good. Depends.
You're great.
If the
all
people
the
are
time.
awesome, then it's all like I can hang out with our listeners because they're awesome and they can shoot the bleep about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that was hard to talk about, to do, was to talk to family, friends, and especially prospective love interests, and have real conversations when I was an abject loser, because I had nothing to talk about. I had not built anything. I had any wisdom from building anything. I had no position of prestige whatsoever. It was obviously that I wasn't happy in my menial jobs that I was doing. So there was nothing. I was nobody. I was a bunch of letters. And that's it. You know, if I had died at 23, it would have just said Tom Shattuck, you know, died at 23.
Well, thank goodness you had some more time
Well, no,
to
so
make
I
something of
understand,
yourself.
but the point is that at some point you have to do something to define yourself a little bit. I'm not saying that I have, you know, done anything huge, but I didn't do nothing eventually. It took me till I was after 30 years old, and that's why I ask about your friends. Because, you know, even the time when I got into, you know, media, I guess it doesn't need the quotes. It is media. That was a long shot. My dad was worried when I changed my job from being a hotel concierge to being a front desk receptionist. He said, Tommy, it's a little late to change careers. And I thought, wow, one, he thinks that concierge was a career, which it is a very good career for a lot of people. But two, it was like, oh, wow, is that true?
Am I old now?
Right, is it too late? You know, you never know, you know? But
Well, I'd say it's never too late, but it is something that it gets harder the longer you go without doing it. The longer you go without learning how to do anything, the easier it is to just continue to
use the
stay.
tambourine woman person as an example.
Right. The longer you flail around and go to protests and do tambourines and wait for your life to start, the easier it is to just stay that person. The easier it is to find more reasons that the patriarchy and white supremacy and whatever are keeping you back and stopping you from doing stuff. I mean, like, whoever came up with all these, like, excuses to hand people ready-made for victimhood, like, they found a winning combination because people are more than happy to take excuses for, like, why they're victimized for stuff.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And,
It's very attractive and addictive, I think.
Because doing nothing is more fun anyway. Like what you were saying, like everybody doesn't like to show up to work on time. Everybody has to put in effort to have a good attitude and everything. Like that's you know, nobody wants to do that naturally. But the things that come with that and the change that you work on yourself by doing that every day, by forcing yourself to get up and do things that you don't want to do every day, and you know, that's what allows you to live the life that you want to lead and be the person that you want to be. And like the more there are these forces out there telling you, like, you don't have to get out of bed. No, stay in bed. You're neurodivergent. No, you're a minority and white supremacy's holding you back anyway. So you might as well just stay in bed.
In all these things, neurodivergent and minority, these are all intersectional things. Unfortunately, they're attached to, you know, to pleasure, you know, senses.
Well, right.
The more things you get to be that's just special, guess what? Now I'm this, and this, which is why I'm this. So, you know, I can just be sedentary here and go yell at guys at protests here, and that's my action item that shows whatever. Other than that, you know, I have all these things, so it just didn't work out. Even though I've got a family in Concord, Massachusetts.
It's never too late to change directions and
there needs to
be something different, but it's hard.
What's the thing you do when you bring all the friends over to tell me to stop drinking?
An intervention?
Yes, there needs to be one of those for people.
Yeah, for each person needs one. And each person, like, you have to do stuff.
But these specifically, there has to be one for these people who've gotten into this miserable lifestyle, this woke protester victimhood lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I think that being married and having kids forces a lot of people to do that because kids don't care.
Alice, they're not going to get to the phase to be eligible for any of that stuff. They're too terrible.
Right. But like, I think that having kids, like, I think one of the reasons it's good for you to have kids is because it forces you to, like, your kids don't care if you're neurodivergent. They have to eat food in the morning
Well,
when
I
they
understand,
get up.
but that, Alice,
So, like,
but you...
But yeah, they're never going to get there.
Tambourine Girl's not going to have kids.
Right.
Because
So
unless
there
there's
has
like a snake man out there who likes that, not going to happen.
But there has to be something that forces people, that like gives people some reason to do that. You know? And I think for a lot of people there isn't.
Well, I think a lot of parents see their kids turning sideways like that. Who's the latest? Jamie Lee Curtis now. I don't know. It has a trans kid now, and she's not. Maybe the kid's fabulous and happy. Maybe. Some people I've seen are not. But parents, I think, are unfortunately, and especially educated parents, are have gone so adrift from their instincts, their parental instincts.
Yeah.
And have so taken the advice of high-priced know-it-alls and credentialed, credentialed soothsayers. Is it soothsayers?
Soothsayers, yeah.
Does that fit here?
Yeah, it's like a fortune teller.
Oh, okay. Doesn't really fit, but I'll take it. That they eschew their instincts, and the instincts are considered kind of a gauche.
Mm-hmm.
So they're nurturing it, thinking, okay, I'm doing the right thing, I guess. Even though, Jenny is now 400 pounds and, is indecipherable as a human at this point, I just got to nurture and make sure Jenny's happy. The problem is a lot of these people with the credentials are absolute activists and true believers, too.
Well, yeah, and just...
Which is why people are trying to chase down Abigail Schreier and ruin her life.
Well, yeah, I mean, people, really smart people can also just be wrong sometimes.
Of course, yes, they're wrong. Everybody knows that. The basic things in life. I mean, God, it's like you're just depriving people, and and once again, just using small. You're not doing anybody a favor if you've got a kid who's really fat and you're feeding him the stuff that he loves, and he says, "Thank you so much," or if you got a husband, for instance, who's
that
5 feet,
letting eat pasta.
5 feet in front of you right now.
Yeah, I'm not helping you, and I let you eat.
But I've lived a life. I've been. I know it. I've ridden. I know the whole thing. I've been through whatever.
Right.
But if I had never, ever in my life, ever, and I'll take some crap for this. If I had never had a time in my life where I was a young, good-looking guy and never knew what that was,
You had, yeah.
Right. But if I had never, I have.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, there are some pictures in the 90s where you say, you know what, that's actually a feasibly handsome fellow. Some.
I believe it.
Yes, of course. But if I had imagined having never had that, how must that change you? And that, for these people, I think not only have many of them never, been physically attractive, or not for years, but just personality-wise, they have not been allowed themselves to blossom whatsoever. It's so miserable. It's actually depressing. I want to go back in time with Tambourine person and say, where was the time where this happened to you? That you're this miserable, that you're spending your time, yelling, losing your bleeping mind at a guy in a good mood holding signs. At least the big idiot sign bully who ripped the sign, he seems to have been, he's an idiot, but he seems to have sampled happiness at one time in his life. I don't know. So my worry is that at some point that you can't. I mean, these kids will they will inherit their parents' cash and houses, money, etc. But they ain't making any more. So maybe those trust funds are doing well and paying dividends, etc. But if this stuff grows, if this spreads, if this becomes...
Well, yeah, it's a malaise. It's a rot in your society. And it is spreading. It is spreading. First, it was just on college campuses, and we were told, oh, it's just on college campuses, no big deal. Yeah, they have the puppy safe spaces on the college campus. Yeah, they have trigger warnings on stuff on the college syllabus. That's never going to spread out to society at large. Well, now look, it's in your workplace. It's everywhere. It's going to get worse before it gets better, because the people in college now who are even more crazy aren't even out in the workforce yet. So yeah, this has to be stomped out by the remainder of Gen X and millennials that aren't insane before it progresses further, because this is cancer in your society.
And these people, it would be one thing if they were just completely nihilists or anarchists, but they're not. They are wholly tethered to progressivism, which is now completely installed into institutions, and including the Biden administration.
Mm-hmm.
So they are getting intravenous drip of this craziness from the administration, from Tony Blinken, who we said yesterday said to everybody, we're going to celebrate Z's, His, and Z's from the State Department.
Yeah, it was International Pronoun Day yesterday.
It's a total validation of all of this insanity that they're about. Totally. Joe Biden today.
The United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland. To that end, our administration is carrying out the first ever comprehensive effort to tackle the threat posed by domestic terrorism.
There just aren't that many white supremacists.
Right, but so in other words, all those people, Tambourine Girl is seeing that and saying, you know what? Yeah, see? The old white dude and the lame government guy in the suit, he wouldn't just be saying it. They believe this crap and this gaslighting, and they take this stuff as the truth. The woke people certainly do. You can say that some people in the middle don't. But when the first ever black deputy press secretary, I think it's technically the second, but we're not allowed to say that, says this.
You guys say that President Biden does not want to raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 a year. But there's a new Fox poll that finds 83% of registered voters are noticing bills for groceries and everyday items increasing. So how is that any different than a new tax?
Well, look, and when you say, can you give me a little bit more? Like, what's the...
Well, the supply...
She's... The gaslighting? What do you even... So when you say Tambourine Girl and you say, you know, they're going to take more money from you while they're giving this stuff away ostensibly in your name. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you... No, I saw the press secretary. She didn't know what he was talking about. She didn't know.
Chain is all backed up. There are bottlenecks, empty shelves, prices going up. People are paying more. And so how is that any different than a new tax?
So I would say this, you know, we're dealing with a historic and evolving pandemic that is impacting our economy.
She was, you know, burning time earlier, asking a follow-up question until she could get to the right page, this page, and now she's reading this.
Right. We have seen it for the past year and a half. That's what people have been dealing with. And it is having an outsized impact on our global supply chain. And the president understands how much a squeeze it is when families see their prices rise. And so he understands that, and that's why we've been using every tool in our tool belt to make sure that we deal with that in a real way, so that people understand that the president is doing everything that he can to deal with those issues. So there's a couple of things. So we got to think about the progress that we've made on how far we've come for the mess that we inherit.
No, but he asked about the prices on shelves being high. So people, especially disadvantaged people, can't afford stuff anymore. I had on a guy in Connecticut today, I'm not sure if I told you, who runs a toy store. Mm-hmm. And they're going out of business now. They just opened the toy store this year because of supply chain problems. Some of the stuff that used to cost them $3.99 or whatever, costs like $17 now for them, and they're supposed to pass that on to...
Yeah, they can't. No, it won't sell at those prices, obviously.
Right.
From the previous president, we've
already from Trump did it.
Oh.
So I mean. The problem is that this is another factor. This bleeds in to those miserable Tambourine people. They're getting all this information as well. And it's telling them that not only to fear, to be more afraid, because white supremacists, and in the intersectional worldview, that's perfect, because that's going to be the enemy anyway.
Right.
But it's also telling them that the things that they should be worried about, that actually affect day-to-day things, like kitchen table things, don't bother looking at those. There's nothing wrong. Nothing's happening.
And if there is anything happening, it's definitely Trump.
Right.
Yeah. Which is interesting because this stuff wasn't happening under Trump. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with this supply chain stuff. Certainly the inflation is not going anywhere, and it's a really big problem. And, you know, the press secretary likes to sit here and say, like, oh, well, that's a good problem to have because demand is back. Yeah, demand is back because you handed everybody a bunch of cash, and now they're trying to buy the same amount of stuff that was there before. Or maybe even less stuff because of the supply chain problems. So that's what's driving prices up, because everybody now has more money in their hand because you just handed everybody a bunch of cash. And their solution to this problem is to hand people more cash. Like, it's that, I don't know on what planet they're existing, but like, look at what happens to like the price of college or the price of houses or everything else when they like just hand people money like this with like from the government, no strings attached. It's crazy. Like, that's the stuff that the prices go up. But now they're just, when you start handing out cash, it happens with everything. It's really like unhealthy for the economy overall, I think. Man. In case you are wondering too, by the way, this was just one tidbit that I happened to see today. This is from Danielle Campo Amor, who's an editor and writer at New York Times, Washington Post, NBC News, etc. She's a very smart person, and she's writing, friendly reminder, it is super easy to explain abortion to kids. My 7-year-old knew what it was and that his mom had one when he was 4. Mom was pregnant when she didn't want to be, and a doctor helped her. Then she was pregnant when she wanted to be, and she had me. So there you go. Perfect. I like taking...
Timing's everything, kid. Good thing it wasn't your turn. Wow.
So that's good. That's not insane and psychotic at all to explain to your kids that they only are here because you didn't kill them. Well,
that is obviously psychotic. But
when they were 4, I could have killed you, but I decided not to. Like, what?
But, you know, it is absolutely honest.
Yeah, that's like freaking
and then that's the point with, you know, most, whatever, I'm not going to get into it. It's,
I hope she helps them pay for their therapy later.
Can you imagine that?
It's like lunacy.
Yeah, here's all the pictures of the brothers you don't have. Yeah, we just could have gone either way, but we thought, no. So, enjoy that. All right, Allie.
I'm official.
St. Pauli girl.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. You've
More
already
like
been there?
Pizza maker, but...
You stop it. You wear a very low-cut, very busty dress kind of...
No, I don't. I wear a black kitchen jacket.
Think, guys,
like,
of
I wear a
European
black
vacation,
jacket.
What Rusty's doing when the bells ring in the German village. That is precisely the situation
here. That's not what's
here.
happening, but I filled out a W-2.
Oh,
so now...
Wow. Don't brag, Alice. Don't brag. Now that we've just spent 45 minutes telling people to overachieve. I think it's great that you're doing it. I think it's wonderful. When I get fired from my radio job, I hope to work with you there in my lederhosen.
Good. I hope you do.
I'd be good at it.
I'm sure you would, honey. You can talk to us on Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod. We're also at Burn Barrel.
We weren't telling people to overachieve for 45 minutes.
No, we were telling people to do something real.
Anything. Do whatever makes you happy that produces something for yourself. So you have something to talk about, anything that makes you happy.
Yeah, do anything. But just do it properly.
Don't shut at a guy with a tambourine. If you're over 25 and you find yourself holding a tambourine more than once a year, then it's time for a Uniden.
Well, I used to do a tambourine dance in my... What?
It's time for a Uniden.
Intervention.
That's right.
I used to do a dance with a tambourine at my Serbian
Alice,
dance group.
don't work blue again.
That's
Stop
not
it.
blue.
Yes, it was blue.
It was
yes,
not
it
blue.
was blue. She was not wearing clothes during this.
I was wearing a lot of clothes, actually. Anyway, burnbarrelpodcast.com. What else am I trying to say? Facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast. We're on Gab. We're on Parler. We're on like all the places where you can have stuff. YouTube, Rumble.
Oh, Jesus. We're so behind on Substacks.
Okay, I'll finish mine. I started it today.
Okay. Great. Beautiful. See you later.